Girls, watch out for those weirdos.
We are the weirdos, mister.
Hello friends, welcome back to Makeup by MakeupBy. Y'all look a little crooked. Is that better? I actually probably made you crooked. If you are new, welcome. If you aren't, welcome back. My name is Meg and today I'm doing a skull look for you guys. It's my 7th year doing a skull look for Halloween. It's just tradition at this point and I have to get it out, and I have to say that I'm heavily inspired by Lisa Artistry, formerly known, but now they go by DiMaggio Glows. They are super incredibly talented artists on Instagram and on TikTok. If you aren't already following them, like, what are you doing? Especially if you love good makeup transformations. I will have their information linked down below. But yeah, we are taking a lot of inspiration, and I'm going to go ahead and say that we are doing a recreation of their look because I love it so much. Super excited, so let's get into it. If this is one of the first times you're seeing my videos, welcome. If you're new here, you already kind of know the rundown. I like to do skull makeup looks every year for Halloween, and I like to use stuff that I already have in my arsenal, so you can follow along and do this at home without having to go out and buy a lot of products. That's one of my favorite things about creating these skull looks. So what I'm doing now is just kind of mapping out my points with a NYX jumbo pencil in the shade Milk. I've had this thing for years. They last forever. They're really inexpensive, and as you can see, if you make a mistake, you can easily smudge it away. So here I'm just kind of mapping out where I want the eyes to go, the nose to go, the mouth to go, the cheekbones, and then we're going to start playing in with color. I'm going to go through a rough idea of palettes that I think I'm going to use, and I'll let you know during the voiceover which ones I used and which ones I didn't. I also want to say before we jump into this, you don't need to have any palette that I do to create this. BH Cosmetics has really inexpensive palettes. Their Take Me Back to Brazil palette is amazing. It has probably very close to every color that I used. It's a rainbow palette, and I think it's only around $12, and you can find it easily at Ulta. So if you don't have any of these colorful eyeshadow palettes that I'm using, fear not. You can easily pick that up if you're looking for a good quality, inexpensive, colorful eyeshadow product. I always have to shout them out for that, especially if you're not a colorful eyeshadow person and this is the only time of year you're going to be wearing color. And here I am just feeling around my own face to see where my cheekbones should go. But that is the basis of how this video is going to run down. I spent about close to 5 hours on this look, so a lot of this is going to be very sped up. And it also took me a very long time because TMI, I have endometriosis, and when I was halfway through this look, my period started and I was in an incredible amount of pain. And I braved through to finish the look, so it took me a lot longer. But if you are new to doing skull makeup looks for Halloween, please make sure that you are giving yourself, I would say, at least a solid 4 hours to get it done, because you rather give yourself too much time than not enough time. Those are my tips for if you're new to this, if you're doing this for Halloween. So let's go ahead and start to have some fun with it. I also wanted to add quickly, really fast, before we zoom. If you aren't familiar with my channel, I do a lot of chit chat get ready with me's That's been my thing lately. So if you're into that, stick around. If you like other kind of makeup content, let me know in the comments down below what are your favorite beauty videos to watch? What kind of makeup content do you like to consume? I would love to hear from you, and be sure to check out the description bar to see where else you can connect with me on social media. All right, that's enough. Let's get into more of the tutorial. That is my good enough face for this mapping out, and also me realizing that I should have done my foundation first and then mapped out. So, duh. Anyway, as you can see, I have a lot of redness on my face, and we definitely want to have something for the foundation or for the eyeshadows to stick to. So I am applying a foundation because I want to have a smooth, opaque surface for the colorful eyeshadows to sit on top of. The foundation's going to give it something slightly tacky to stick onto because we're not setting this. So I'm applying this foundation everywhere but my eye area because I will use eye primer on my eye area. I thought it would be wasteful to use eye primer all over my entire face. So yeah, we are basically just using this as a blank slate, and thankfully that somehow did not drip on my shirt. I don't know how that happened. It didn't really drip on my lap either, so I got really lucky. But yeah, I should have done foundation first and then applied the outlines afterwards. Now we are starting our eyeshadow tour. I used a couple of shades from the Moonspell palette. I didn't really use much from this Norvina Volume 1. I did use the oranges from Norvina Volume 2, I think the orange one is, or 3. And I also ended up using my Nikkie Tutorials X Beauty Bay palette. And I also used my Anastasia Beverly Hills X Alyssa Edwards palette. Those were my most used palettes. You'll see those in a moment. So let's get to work. Miss Alyssa Edwards giving us the absolute perfect shade of purple to work with in this palette. It was honestly, that is like my favorite purple color that I own. So let's get on to applying it. I'm going to use a foundation brush to apply the quote unquote colorful foundation to my face. This just allows us to easily pack on colors in a quick manner and to blend really easily. And the majority of that purple isn't really going to drop below our temple level. So you can see right there, I'm kind of marking the bottom line. And because I'm using a foundation brush, I'm really going to have to pack this on in a couple of layers for it to look even. So like I said, you're going to need to take your time with it, have patience, and have fun. To help blend and bring us down to the main color, which is pink, I'm taking the pink from the palette. This is such an underrated palette to me. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to be picking up the same brush, same technique, and I'm just going to go right on the edge to work on blending that and getting a nice gradient. And we're going to be using another pink as well because this is very much a hot pink, so it can live in the space of the purple. But having it on the surrounding edge, that's how we're going to get that gradient from purple to a darker hot pink to a lighter pink. And like I said, have fun. I was jamming out to midnight, of course. What else would I be listening to? Here is where I switched things up and I started using the pink from the Nikkie Tutorials and Beauty Bay palette. This is more of like a cotton candy pink, and it's not as dark of a pink as what was in the Alyssa Edwards palette. And I'm going to put this all over down to my upper lip because the bottom half of our face is going to be orange. I wish I use a little bit of a lighter pink in the cheekbone area, but I try to correct that with some white eyeshadow later on. So that's another thing. You don't need to have a million different colors of eyeshadow to add depth to something at a darker color. If you have a pink and you made it, it's a little bit too dark and you want to highlight something, add a white eyeshadow. As a base for the bottom half of my makeup, I'm using the orange that is also in the Nikkie Tutorials and Beauty Bay palette and just filling that area in. And then to add some shade and dimension, I'm going to be pulling out the Norvina Volume 3 palette, which I believe is the orange one. Again, the best way to have the best coverage with the eyeshadow foundation is to stipple and pat it into place. It'll also get it done super fast. And here we're listening to Anti-Hero because why wouldn't we listen to self-deprecating music while doing our makeup? Is that anyone else's favorite song? Because of course it's mine. And the purple looks a little funky right now with the lighting because I had my overhead lighting on, like as in for the room. So I have a lot of shine reflecting off of it, but it was definitely a lot more purple looking in person. And now we're moving on to the next steps, which is bringing some life to this. Yes, hi, we know, it's you. You're the problem. It's you. Anyway, to add some depth and dimension to this, I'm going to be dipping into some of the darker orange shades in the Norvina palette. And I'm going to be using a smaller but still compacted synthetic brush to really pack the color on. And it's also going to help us blend. I would say that there's many parts of this where it's like trust the process, but the entire look is trust the process. So by putting that darker orange shadow on the outskirts, it's going to help highlight the parts that we want highlighted, and it's going to, because we're putting those right next to the areas that we're going to contour and have be really dark, so it's going to help lift from such dark contrast into the orange. It will all make sense and come together soon, I promise. Now we're using the same concept with some purple shadows from the Moonspell Volume 2 palette because they are purple, but they're more pink tone and red tone purples in this palette. So it's kind of perfect to help blend with that contour up to the other parts of the skull. And here I am trying to see how can I lighten up that high, like that cheekbone area. So what I ended up doing was dipping into the Alyssa Edwards palette and piling on some white, and it helped to lighten it up. I was so unsure about my brows, if I needed to cover them, or if I didn't need to cover them. I should have covered them in the first place. So what I did was took some concealer and I just, put some on the back of my hand, wrung my spoolie through it, and now I am combing through my brow hairs with concealer coated spoolie to block them out. And now I can kind of add any color on top without them showing through, because I wasn't sure if there would be pink showing on top of my brows or if it would be darker. So I just should have concealed them from the beginning. So that's a quick and easy way to do it if you don't want to go through the trouble of using a glue stick. I don't have much brow hair to begin with, so it was pretty easy for me to do. Things are starting to progress. As you see, I started to outline the temple area with some black eyeshadow, and now I'm going to start working on the contour of the cheekbones. So for this, I ended up using one of the darkest purples in the Moonspell palette, and I'm going to use that to fill the majority of this contoured, hollowed out cheekbone area in. And then I'm going to outline the area in black. So I'm kind of working my way lightest to darkest in this case. And I find that personally to be the easiest for me and the less messy and muddy. I also carved out a jawbone. I don't think you needed to see that on camera, but here you can see I'm taking this super, super thin brush and I'm just getting on the very outskirts of that purple, and it's going to start to give an illusion of dimension. So by layering that purple on first and then adding the black, you don't have to do much blending for it to start to look like a shadow. You just have to drag the black shadow down the littlest amount and it will start to look blended. I picked up a little more purple eyeshadow and I'm just blending those edges and kind of filling in the middle, and you're pretty much good to go. For the time being, I'm just going to do the little nose areas in purple, and you can see I use some white eyeshadow to really highlight the nose. We'll work more on that, but it is time to get into the best part, which is the eyes. So here I am using the ABH eye primer. I love this eye primer. I haven't stopped using it since it came out. I tried going back to Urban Decay. I tried the P. Louise, And I just keep coming back to this one. I like it so much. So again, I'm just with the fluffy brush, I'm just spreading this all over the eye socket area. I kind of redefine the area a little bit more with a lip liner pencil. So again, it smudges easily so you don't have a permanent line you have to work around. And we're just getting this prepped and loaded and ready because we are going to be doing some interesting things in the hollow of the eye. I kind of wanted to try to emulate the oil slick look that the original artist had, and we try our best here. I'm using a tiny, very compacted brush because I am packing on that purple eyeshadow. It is where my eyebrows are, so you really want to press this eyeshadow in to make sure that you are getting in between those brow hairs so you don't have any weird spots or weird patches. And with this purple, I'm kind of just mapping out where I want the darkest points of the eye socket to be on the outer edges. This is a little bit weird to describe, but it's like a semi, like kind of like where I want I'm cutting the crease basically, like where I want the crease to be, like the darkest point of the eye crease, and kind of like making that a diagonal up. You'll see where this goes because like we want to have like a little bit of brightness in the middle, like in the third of the eye, like right in the middle, and then we're going to have darkness in the outer corner. So you just got to, again, trust the process here. And I'm just going to fill all of that in with purple eyeshadow. I went ahead to drag that to the lower inner corner of where our hollow is in our eye. And here you can see that I started to pick up a green shadow because there was some darkness that wasn't quite black and it wasn't quite purple. So I used my Smoke Sessions Melt Cosmetics palette because it has this really, really deep dark green. And that's what I'm using up here to get this even darker without using black eyeshadow. Like I said, if you don't have 1,000,001 eyeshadow palettes like I do and a black is all you have, feel free to use black. It's going to work. I just didn't want it to be as harsh as black around these edge points here. And the green is also going to help tie into like the oil slick kind of opposite look that we have going on. That is a pink and purple. That's the main part of the skull face. To continue with the eye look, we're doing kind of opposites attract here a little bit. So we're picking orange and dabbing that in the inner corners. And you could just see the little puff of like eyeshadow smoke. So make sure like you're looking up and away so you don't get that into your eyeball. Again, I'm very liberally packing these shadows onto my lid. We want this as vibrant as possible. Now I'm just kind of playing around with shape a little bit, kind of thinking about where I want the highlight, right? Because like our brow bone is a bone that protrudes out, so it is a little bit of a highlighted area. So I'm taking a lighter, more yellow orange and just blending that right up to the brow bone. And then again, we're going to go in with the purple to kind of carve out the shadow. So I'm kind of switching it up on you, going back and forth here. To really help that highlight, I did just straight up go into yellow. I used yellow from the Alyssa Edwards palette. And again, I'm using that on the higher points of the eye socket area and to kind of help lighten up the orange because I didn't want it as orangey as it was. One last color before we lay down our darkness, we are going back in with a hot pink. This is a pink from the Nikki Tutorials palette. Again, I'm kind of blending that out into the crease. And we're going to redefine the shape with the purple again, like I said. But we're laying down a lot of the sparkles from the Nikki Tutorial palette. So I'm kind of laying this pink down as a base so there's color underneath the sparkle and glitter, if that makes sense. And my favorite part of this look was doing the eyes because I felt like Bob Ross, just like lightly making little swirls of happiness on my eyelids, and I had so much fun doing it. I am taking a red purple from the Moonspell palette. This is one of the darker purples in the palette. The Moonspell palette has a lot of red toned purples to it. So I thought it would be a nice contrast. It's kind of like almost a maroon color compared to the purple that we used. So I'm just really making that angular and covering my lid, knowing that we're going to be putting a nice pink glitter on top of it. Honestly, 99% of this look is pounding eyeshadow onto your face and just kind of slopping it on. Like, you don't have to be super precise. So I hope you don't feel intimidated by these looks as you're watching me do it. And they are longer because I like, I want a beginner to be able to follow along and kind of see what I'm doing and understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So hopefully that's making it easier. Let me know in the comments if you feel intimidated or if you feel like you would be able to follow this. I feel like I might regret asking that, but here comes the pink glitter. I am so excited. Oil slick look. So this glitter is going all over our eyelids. I love it so much. It is so pretty. It is looking mostly silver because of my studio lighting, but it is absolutely stunning. I love this Nikki Tutorials and Beauty Bay palette, and it's super affordable. I believe it was only $30. So if you're looking for a nice mid-tier colorful eyeshadow palette, I cannot recommend it enough because the shimmers in there make it well worth it. Now with my pinky, I am dabbing this blue glitter all over the center, like right where your iris is, blending that down to kind of add that contrast to the orange. It's super, super cool. And if you're wondering why I'm dabbing these glitters on, because it's the most impactful way to apply any shimmer, any glitter, is to pack it on with your finger. And if you get some on your face, you'll see what I do to like whisk it away. You just take a brush and just whoosh, get it out of there, flick it off. And it's gone. Super easy. Using a brush, you're not going to get as high of impact with the shimmer, with payoff. So if you want it super, super, super sparkly like we are, and then we're layering it on, using your finger is going to be your best tool. And on the outer edges of the blue, I'm pressing on the pink glitter to kind of just have it melt together. And also applying shimmer or glitter with your finger is going to prevent fallout. So if you are doing glittery looks and shimmery looks and you spent all this time like doing this face and you don't want a face full of glitter, trust me with applying with your fingers. It is time to get into the nitty gritty of things because this is all fine and dandy, but it's time to add those details that's really gonna bring this look to life. So I'm using a black eyeshadow, again from the ABH Alyssa Edwards palette. It's one of my favorite palettes. I have so many. But it has the purest white eyeshadow in an eyeshadow palette that I've used. And it also has one of the blackest black eyeshadows that I've ever used. So I'm just using a flat brush and outlining the eye socket area like we did the jawbone. And then we're really going to start getting into the detail work. For that detail work, we are going to be using the Suva Beauty Hydra Cake Liners. So basically, you got to take a little spray bottle, you spritz it, you wet it, it activates it, and it works so beautifully. You're about to see in a second. And these are so pigmented, the white and black, that they're going to elevate this look so much. I purchased these a couple years ago, and I know that cake liners have really exploded onto the market. So I'm sure that there's so many different options because these are mid-tier, so I'm not sure of a lesser expensive option. And the brush that I'm using is super thin. What I did is that I went on Amazon and I ordered a nail kit brush set. And it came with I think 7 different brushes of thickness and size. And these make the most perfect brushes for liner brushes. If you're ever wanting to get into graphic eyeliner or wondering how people that do graphic eyeliner do it or what brushes they use, I can almost guarantee they use nail brushes, nail art brushes for sure. So I'm just going to begin outlining and then we'll start the detail, but I'm going to speed this process up. Adding cracks is an amazing detail for skull work, and you just kind of let the brush and the liner do the work for you. So where it's the thickest is, the more pigment, and then you just kind of let your brush dangle off until there's less and less product. And you could kind of work in threes with this. So you branch out and then you add 2 more and then 2 more off of that and 2 more off of that. And it adds this really cool cracked look. So I'm thinking of adding this, like, where are natural cracks going to occur? And that's like at all 4 points almost of the eye socket look. I also added cracks off the nose. And we're also going to work on highlighting those even more with the white liner you'll see in just a minute. Depending how detailed you want this to be, this could be almost equally as time consuming as the rest. No, like I would say this is like a third of time consuming as everything else that we just did. For this last corner one, I wanted to connect this to the temple and have it crack up through to the temple. To finish off with the black, I just added the lines on the mouth, how far out I want the teeth to extend, along with defining the bottom part of the mouth. Now this is the tedious part, the teeth. So I'm using the white hydroliner here, and they're kind of like odd-shaped triangles. You'll be able to see better, hopefully, in a minute with my mirror not in the way. But you just kind of think of them as like little triangles, rounded, almost like vampire teeth kind of. This is like this was a point where I was over this look. I was ready to be done. So again, pace yourself. It does take time. It is time consuming, especially with the details. And I believe I did 8 teeth on the top and bottom. Hi, I know I jumped a lot. So the teeth were giving me trouble. I was really annoyed and I forgot I had the camera off, to be honest. I tried filling it in with the NYX Jumbo pencil to save my time of the tediousness of filling it in with the hydroliner. It wasn't working, so then I had to go on top of that with a hydroliner, and then I went in between the teeth with black shadow, and then now to make the teeth stand out, I am back with the Suva hydroliner in black, and I'm outlining each individual tooth. This was the biggest pain in the butt. Every year I do a skull look, the teeth is like when I'm over it. I don't know about you, but like regular makeup, when I get to mascara, I'm just so over my makeup at that point. I want to be done, and that's what skull teeth are for me. So I'm, listening to some Paramore, trying to hype myself up. I also added crystals off camera, and I am like, I'm so annoyed I didn't film it. So you can see here where I added some sparkle, some highlight to it, some more interest to the look. I really like how it turned out with the crystals. All I did to apply the crystals, if you're not familiar, is that you just take some lash glue, dot it on your face, and then if you have like a tool or tweezers, you could pick up the crystal and just tap it right into place. Here is the finished look. I hope you enjoyed. We are right at the 30-minute mark, which I'm really impressed because I had 3 hours of footage that I turned into 30 minutes, so I have to give myself props. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this look. If you are going to be using a skull look for Halloween, let me know in the comments, or if you were just watching for fun, let me know what you're going to be. I'd love to hear from you. If you are interested in seeing more of my content, be sure to subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this. This was so much work. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for your time and energy, and have a safe and happy Halloween.